this. Welcome to the Food Freedom Masterclass, Quarantine Edition. Oh, let me open the chat so it doesn't keep blinking at me. Oh, wow. We have people joining from all over. So if you're tuning in right now, go ahead and tell us where you're from, whether you're on Facebook or you are on Zoom. I was like, what's this platform again? Hello. So I just have a little like introduction portion, and then we're going to get into the teaching and then close out, and I'll answer any questions. Oh my gosh. So you all are from literally all over. This is so cool. Virginia, Pennsylvania, Florida, Netherlands. Oh, you joined in the dead of night. Thank you. Canada, DC, Portland, Oregon, Czech Republic. Awesome. So cool. Guatemala, Missouri, New Zealand. Ah, this is awesome. Will this be on Facebook? Yes, it will. I'm live streaming in the Facebook group right as we talk. Massachusetts. So cool. Okay, so let's get started. All right. So the reason why I wanted to do this is because, I mean, you and I both know this lockdown has been pretty wild. This whole pandemic has been pretty wild. It's been like devastating. It's really shaken up all of our, routines. It's been a very eye-opening and awakening situation that's been happening because all of us were kind of forced out of autopilot, right? When the world changes that drastically, we wake up and we're like, what's going on? And the pandemic, from my eyes, has really illuminated all of both the beautiful things that we already have going and the problematic things. Wait, why did my live video end? Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. I have to try this again on Facebook. Dang it. Hold on. You're doing great, sweetie. Thanks. Facebook was like, no. It basically told me that there was an issue and then it just stopped. Like, that's not what I signed up for. Okay. Streaming live on Facebook again. Come on, Facebook. I've never had this issue before, too. Okay, it's working. Yay. Awesome. So there's a lot going on, right? There's a lot going on. And from my perspective, we have been forced to look at both the positive things that exist and the negative things that exist, right? The shadow and the light. So it's kind of like a giant mirror was placed up in front of all of us. And we're seeing, the issues, at least in the United States, the issues with our healthcare system, the issues with income inequality, the issues with like the way that our, capitalist structure runs. Like if it has to be put on pause, it has huge ripple effects. So we're seeing all of the shadow sides come out, but we're also seeing a lot of beauty, right? We're seeing what's happening with nature. We're seeing the way that people are showing up for each other and creating connection in times when we can't like physically connect as easily. So we're seeing both. Now on an internal, and from an internal perspective, we are seeing probably some of the things you like about yourself. Maybe you're resting, or you're maybe you're resting, or you are taking care of yourself in certain ways, or maybe this break has been really needed and you're growing and you're healing a lot of ways. And then maybe in other ways you're kind of spinning out, right? You're really struggling with things that you struggled with before but were not quite healed and really came up like full force. So is that happening to anyone? And like, what has this lockdown and the pandemic shown you about yourself? What have you been learning about yourself in this process? Let me know, because I know for a lot of you, the reason that you're here is because your food stuff or body image stuff or wanting to diet, like all of this came up. Yeah, food is your go-to coping mechanism. Even if I saw a lot of posts from people in the group being like, I think I was I thought I was doing pretty well, and then the lockdown hit, and then all of these coping mechanisms came back. That's really common. So the lockdown has shown me that underneath ah, the full-time work and side hustling, I have this creative force. Ooh, compulsive need to stay busy. Yep. Yeah. I put a lot of value as a person in my work. Yeah. Oh, how much I miss eating at restaurants. Same. Yeah. Don't love having to think about food so much. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I can't possibly read through all of these, but you all are learning a lot of things. And so maybe you're seeing on the shadow side, seeing a lot of the coping mechanisms that aren't, the best or the most advantageous for you coming out in full force. And so we're going to talk about that. So why am I doing this? Well, I noticed that there was a need for this, and that was something I really wanted to address and offer for free because I really feel like information should be more widely available. Um, Coping mechanisms, like I said, are coming out in full force, and unfortunately, the diet industry is really trying to take advantage of you. Ad spend, for those of you who don't work on like online marketing at all, ad spend has never been cheaper. It was literally, I've been running ads to this webinar series, and it's so cheap. Diet companies are taking advantage of that. And there have been more diet ads than ever. And you might have noticed them a lot, that they're really trying to like, encourage you to lose weight and take advantage of this time. The other reason why I'm doing this is because I'm tired of seeing smart, compassionate, and powerful people giving their lives away to dieting. Routines have been interrupted right now. So, in my opinion, this is the best time to take your power back. This is the best time to start working on your relationship with food, your relationship with body, or using these coping mechanisms that are coming up as an opportunity to learn and to grow and to heal the things that maybe you hadn't quite addressed yet and were really, brought back to your face when all of this started. That being like a gentle way to describe it, right? Okay, so today we're going to talk about why you might be struggling with food or why you might feel like you can't stop eating. The real reason why you feel out of control around some foods or maybe a lot of foods, and why you might be struggling with your body image or diet thoughts now more than ever, because all of this is rooted in understanding your coping mechanisms. Wait, what just happened? Okay, just as a little preview though. So I tried to make each of these uh, training calls stand alone. So if you only caught one, you would get a ton out of it. That being said, all of this is really going to make sense in the context of the three parts plus the bonus is really going to take it that step further. So this, I really, really encourage you to come to all the calls. On Wednesday, we're going to be talking about like dieting and weight loss and the truth about weight and health, and even talking about COVID and all of that stuff, and what you should do for your health if dieting is not the answer, right? Friday, I'm going to be taking through like step by step, what do you expect from food freedom? What maybe some of the biggest mistakes and pitfalls that I see, and where do people get caught up or get down on themselves or thinking they're not doing enough? And then Saturday, I'm taking an even deeper mindset class, like how to stop beating yourself up all the time. Next steps, I'm going to answer a lot of questions on Saturday. So I highly recommend tuning into all of them. It will really, really benefit you. Yes, you'll get a lot from just one call, but why not watch all of them and just get all of that information? Like, I'm seriously giving everything away. So yeah, that's my on that. No, why is okay. So why are you here? All right. And let me know which of these that you identify with. This huge thing that happened is totally out of our control, which can feel really chaotic and uncertain and scary right now. And you're either stuck at home and you're stressed out and overwhelmed, or you're working still, which is so stressful and vulnerable and anxiety inducing. Yeah, they'll be available as recording afterwards in the Facebook group. Working is very anxiety inducing as well, right? You know you need connection, but it also kind of feels good to hide, right? Like there's part of you that's like, I don't want the world to open back up again because then I have to like see people and like have pressure to hang out, or social pressure, or I'm gonna get busy again. That's how I'm feeling. I know a lot of you are probably feeling the same way. You might be feeling out of control around foods. You might be rebelling against healthy lifestyle changes. Can't find balance. Like, what does health look like? How do you, you know, find that in between. You constantly beat yourself up for eating badly or not working out, or not working hard enough, or working too hard, or numbing, or whatever, not taking enough breaks, um, bored, mindless eating, or emotionally charged eating, kind of two sides of the same coin. Panic, desperation to fix your body or develop good habits, right? This like, oh, I need to figure this out now. I need to change my body now. You look in the mirror and you're like, I need to do this. Like, if I don't do this, everything's gonna, it kind of feels like you're freaking out, which we're gonna talk about. Um, Maybe you're worried about weight gain and disease risk or COVID risk, because there's been a lot of articles. Like, it's hard to escape that in the media, right? And I'm sure if you're struggling with this, you're struggling with all or nothing mentality, feeling like a failure, feeling like you're not doing enough. Everything feels a little bit out of your control, so you're looking for control. And maybe you have a problem feeling your feelings. Maybe you battle with your insecure thoughts a lot, or you never give yourself a break and you're caught in comparison. You have a lot of anxiety and you don't trust yourself. So wherever you're at on your journey, maybe there's some of these that you can identify with. And even if all of these are not you, right? Like, even for those of you who are coming to this webinar, but you've already done a lot of work on your relationship with food, I imagine that some of these things still pop up for you. And so the things that we're going to talk about today and for the rest of the week are going to be super helpful with that, regardless of like how far you are in healing your relationship with food, if that makes sense. So this is what your brain can feel like a lot of the time. Let me know if you agree. There's so many messages coming at us at like 20 different angles, being like, you got to do all of this stuff. If you don't have a hobby in the corn, then you're a failure. But if you do have a hobby, then you're working too hard, and like, you should lose weight or you shouldn't lose weight, or it doesn't work. It's just so confusing. We have 1,000 different messages coming at us, and it can feel really, really chaotic, and it can feel like you're in a room full of 500 people just like yelling at you all the time. One time I had a client who, when we first started working together, she said that it felt like I had taken her from a room with 500 people and put her in a room by herself, and she was actually able to think for the first time. And if that's not like the best depiction of what food freedom does, it really like takes you out of the chaos, which I love. So my question for you is, yeah, I feel like Noom follows me everywhere. Same. I don't know why they're targeting me. So how much longer are you willing to live like this? Thinking about how your relationship with food impacts your life and how your relationship with your body impacts your life, like, how much longer are you really gonna be okay with this before it's time to make a change, right? Because healing your relationship with food is scary and it's really hard. Like, it's hard work, emotional work. Um, it's not bad emotional work, but it can feel really scary and really out of control. And it makes you question a lot of things, which our brains like desperately try to protect us from any change or questioning or, growth at all. And so it can feel like there's a lot of risks and costs to healing your relationship with food. But at the end of the day, there's so many ways that your relationship with food and your body are currently hurting you and currently getting in the way of your life. So it really comes down to like, how much longer are you willing to go about that? You're gonna have to change eventually. Like, we always end up making a choice. So when is it time for you to just choose food freedom and like throw yourself completely in? And for those of you who are like, what the heck is food freedom? We'll get there. So here's some of the reasons why it can feel really scary to make a change. You can't do another diet, but you can't trust yourself to eat well, right? You're overwhelmed with information, beating yourself up for not figuring it out already. I get this all the time. People are like, I should have figured it out. Why can't I just eat like a normal person? And it's like, well, is that helping anything? No. You can't stand to gain any more weight or physically uncomfortable in your body. You're worried about judgment. That's a big one, right? People are going to judge me for ditching dieting. People are going to judge me for giving up. And you failed at everything else, quote unquote. So why would this be different? So if you're feeling anxious by a lot of the things I just said, I want you to just tap into your body right now. Tune in. This is word for word my last therapy session. That's funny. Tune into your body. This fear comes and goes. The anxiety comes and goes. So when we try to breathe through the fear, what do you really need from your relationship with food? What do you really need from your relationship with your body? Let me know. And in the meantime, I'll tell you about me. I'll keep it short and sweet. Yeah, trust, peace, acceptance, compassion, peace. Feel worthy, trust, safety, safe. Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about all of that today. Awesome. So I'm a registered dietitian. My handle is Trust Your Body Project. If you don't know, I am a food freedom coach, although I am expanding my business into success and leadership and mindset coaching as well. And I'm currently being trained as a transformational life coach through a coach that literally transformed my life. And so I'm now learning how to do the same. It's been incredible. But yeah, a little bit about my story, and you can go listen to my first podcast episode where I talk about my story, or just like check out my website. But my first diet was in ninth grade. I went to Jenny Craig with my mom, and they put me on this super low calorie diet. And I was like, I remember running around school being like, oh my God, I'm going to be skinny. Like all my problems are going to be fixed. Because I just looked different from a lot of my friends. And I like really started to focus on it around eighth, ninth grade. And no one told me what happens after you diet. Like no one told me that dieting, I thought dieting was like taking a pill and you're done, game over, or like end of story. But no, it's not how it works. So I didn't know, gained the weight back, and ended up yo-yo dieting for almost a decade. I used to identify, just for those of you who are like, because one of the big pieces of resistance that I get from people is like, well, I can't do this process because I can't let go of control. I'm a control freak. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a people pleaser. I'm an empath, who I can't help but take on everyone's emotions. Well, I used to identify with all of these things, right? I used to think that there was no way to change how much I take on from other people. And there's no way to change the fact that I'm a perfectionist or a control freak, even though I felt constantly out of control. There's no way that I'm ever going to break free from needing validation and approval from other people. It's not possible, right? And I have zero willpower, and all I wanted was this willpower thing, because everyone online is like, willpower, just try harder. And you're like, but I can't, I think. And I took a lot of pride. My whole identity was my body and health. I became a dietitian when I was in my like disordered dieting phase, So I have all the things that people attach onto, and you might be attaching onto, is like reasons why it's never going to work for you. And I promise you, all those that like none of that is permanent, right? We can change all of that, and through the food freedom process, I'll explain more on Friday, we end up working on all of that because it like ripple effects into every area of your life. So at the worst, I hated my body. I beat myself up 24/7. I aggressively restricted for weight loss, but called it health. I'm a dietitian. I know what I'm talking about, no. I would binge all the time, and I comfort ate all the time. The difference between the two was like comfort eating was always in the middle of the night, and it was like 9 out of 10 times quesadillas. And then binging was just kind of like whatever I could get my hands on, What changed? So after my dad died a couple years back, things were just like put in a perspective for me. And I was just kind of like, oh, why am I dieting this hard? Like, why am I, doing all this? And so I found intuitive eating eventually, and letting go of control and learning to heal my self-worth was without a doubt one of the, it was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Learning to let go of control will radically change your life. And I can't even like be more specific with that, because it changes everything. It changes the way I go about relationships. It changes the way I show up at work and my job, and how I, trust myself on a day-to-day basis. It changes how I deal with emotions. It changes how I deal with my thoughts. Like, letting go of control is the most beautiful process you'll ever go through. And it's absolutely terrifying. So that's that. So what challenges need your attention right now? What inside of you feels like it needs healing? Let me know in the chat, and I'll have to read back through it later. So the first step in all of this, right, is awareness. Now, the biggest problem that I see is with food issues or body image issues, insecurities, things like that. We judge it so hard, like, oh my gosh, my food, like I can't stop eating. I can't stop eating sugar. I can't stop, why am I freaking out about my body so much? Like, why do I want to diet? I know I shouldn't be dieting. Like, why am I doing this? There's so much judgment. And even when you think you're giving yourself unconditional permission, or you're giving yourself compassion, or you're just like being like observing it, there's usually a tinge of judgment that I can suss out immediately if someone's, the way that we phrase certain things, I'm like, judgment. All right. So the first step, no matter what is going on with you, curiosity. Why is this happening? What's going on? Okay. Get curious. There's such a different energy from, why can't I stop eating, to, oh, interesting. I haven't binged in a while. I wonder why that's back. Or, oh, I thought I was doing pretty well with my body image, and now all of a sudden I'm hyper focusing on it. Like, what's going on? Such different energies, right? Now, in order to get into the state of curiosity and to release the judgment, it's important for you to understand like how awesome your body is. All right. Your body is beautifully designed to identify threats, protect you from danger, and keep you in equilibrium. For those of you who have been in any basic level biology class, right? Homeostasis. Our entire body is designed to keep the different like levels of things within a homeostatic range. Okay. It includes food and weight. This includes, everything. And for some reason, we try to separate weight or our eating from this and say, oh no, I can manipulate food. I can manipulate my body. That's the only part of your body that isn't going to like naturally try to find equilibrium by itself. Yeah, I bet, No, your body is beautifully designed to do this. And you consciously are not as in control as we like to think that we are, because their bodies are way smarter than we are. Okay. Everything exists in a flowing balance. When you have changes in behaviors, or when you have a sort of normalized relationship with food, and if you have, extreme changes in your weight, these are signs. This gives us information. If you have a normal relationship with food, you're not dieting anymore, you're just, you have food freedom, right? Changes in weights are a good idea to go to the doctor, get that checked out, right? It's anthropometric information. It's information that tells us something about the body, okay? Changes in your behavior, same thing. There's something going on. So most of our thought patterns and behaviors are subconscious and automatic. And what happened with this pandemic is that our routines were completely disrupted. And so our subconscious thought patterns and behaviors and the way that we go about our life was completely disrupted, which is the best time for change. One of the, best tools that I learned for behavior change is if you want to change your routine or change, a certain behavior or habit, to change up your environment, right? Move some furniture around, get some new decorations, or, clean out old stuff, because a change in environment signals to our brain that like there's new information to be brought in. So this period of time when everything is kind of up in the air and like our routines are constantly changing and everything's a little uncertain is such a good time to start healing your relationship with food, even though it feels like, oh, a lot's going on, I don't want to add to it. No, add to it. Like do it all at once, rip the Band-Aid off, because this is the time when you're going to be more receptive to change because they're already so uncertain. Seriously. Okay. In terms of, thought patterns developing, and behaviors developing, you are not responsible, you are not at fault for certain thought patterns or behaviors that developed as a coping mechanism, but you are responsible for your own healing. You have to be the one to choose healing. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this, because I know it's easy to judge ourselves of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this again. Why is my relationship with food so bad? Why is my relationship with my body so bad? Like it's all my fault. Not your fault. It developed innocently enough, but let's look at like why it developed, and let's choose healing if it's no longer serving you, right? And that comes from a place of curiosity, not judgment. Okay, so the way that I want you to see your behaviors are your problems, your eating problems, your body image problems, your food, whatever problems, are symptoms, okay? They're not actually the problems, they're symptoms of a root problem. And we're going to dive into root causes today. If there's any, we're going to go through some of these. So if there's any you want to add to the list later, just let me know. So let's talk about how our brains keep us safe. Okay. So basically what happens is our brains assess for danger. If there's danger, a threat to our safety, then we use what we know, our environmental cues, the information that we've already developed, cues from, and this is like early on in life as well as later in life, but specifically when we're developing, when we're younger, we kind of use what we know, right? We look at our parents, we look at society, we look at the information that we've already have and the tools that we have to deal with things, and we do the best with what we got. This is a big reason why emotional eating develops for people a lot of times at a young age, because if you don't know how to process your feelings, or you don't know how to deal with your emotions because your parents don't deal with their emotions, your parents don't make you feel safe when you have feelings, then food is a really, really effective coping mechanism when you have no other tools, because it's soothing and it's delicious. Okay. So we do it the best with what we got. You just got to find a way to like escape danger. Then our brains code that information, remember it for later, and then we become hyper vigilant about like, okay, where are the threats? Looking for threats, looking for danger, looking for a sign that there's going to be more that you need to escape. I don't know if I want to go through this right now. We're going to do it on that. Okay. So let me see if this is not great. Okay. What I'm going to do on Zoom is mirror the video. I'm nervous that, shoot, yeah, it's already mirrored on Facebook. Okay, well, is it going to change on Facebook? Hold on. Okay, I think we're going to be good. It's fine on Zoom. Yeah, I just mirrored it on Zoom, so I just switched myself, but I think Facebook is going to be okay. All right, let's hope. Oh, this is my whiteboard, my trusty whiteboard that I don't even write on the whiteboard part. I just write on my giant Post-it notes. Okay, so here is the thing again. So let's go through this, right? There's a threat. And the only thing that you need to do when there's a threat is escape it. So we, fight the threat, we flee, right? We run away. This is also like distracting ourselves. Oh, okay. That's good to know. You freeze, shut down, right? This is a big one when we get an overwhelm and we shut down. For those of you who experience this, you might have experienced this a lot when we first started this pandemic and this lockdown. I know I did. I was like frozen in overwhelm at the beginning. And like it was like you couldn't pay me to do any work. Like I didn't know it was just, it felt like an elephant was literally sitting on my chest. That's freeze. And then fawn is like people pleasing. It's like telling people what they want to hear, or trying to like, manipulate people's reaction as a way to create your own safety. So this happens a lot with like emotionally neglectful childhoods or environments growing up, or just, if you have emotionally immature parents who tend to like play the victim or turn it back on you or whatever it may be. Fawning is common. This is also common in like a threat to your physical safety. Sometimes we try to like talk our way out of it or kind of like appease, right? And then what happens? So when we escape the threat, you can do one of two things. We become hyper-vigilant. So we start looking for all signs of threat and we hold on to our scouts, or we can go towards safety. Now, the problem with human beings is that when animals are in danger, when they're running from a threat, what they'll do after a fight or a physical altercation, or whatever the threat may be, is they'll shake off. Like birds like shake, and certain animals like they jitter and they get it out of their bodies. Okay, this is like an instinctual way to shake out emotional energy, because fear is in the body, it's not in the head, right? We have thoughts and we have feelings in the body. So fear and anxiety is in the body physically. And when we are running away from something and then we finally get safe, I forget her name, but in the book Burnout, she talks about how, even as humans, when we were sort of early on hunter-gatherer phase, if you were running from a danger or a threat, you would get back to safety with a bunch of people and you'd be like, yes, and celebrate. So celebrating is one of the way, or like releasing this pent-up energy is one of the ways that we feel safe. all right? This is a little bit more complicated because we are no longer running away from physical dangers. We're no longer being chased by bears, right? Or whatever we were chased by. We're running away from like psychological dangers. And our ability to interpret different things, our ability to assess an actual threat from a perceived threat, especially when we're young, is not very good. And so we become overdeveloped in our minds, overstimulated in our minds, and we run away, we escape. And then we stay there. We stay in this pattern of hypervigilance, looking for perceived danger, mental danger, even though physically we might be safe. So what happens when we're in hypervigilance mode? This is like fight or flight. This is, you know, we're still in our stress response from whatever happened when you were younger, which is probably like the first time you ever went on a diet, right? You've probably been in a hypervigilance mode about food in your body since, which is kind of wild to think about. Our window of tolerance, our ability to handle stressful situations is really, really small. So the tiniest little, this is why it's so hard to let go of control, is because we have a really tiny window of tolerance, okay? The idea of letting go of control can feel so overwhelming because we're like, no, any changes to our like okayness right now threatens our safety. Any changes to what we know to be true, and any changes to our body, any changes to food, any changes to anything threatens our safety. It's not okay, run away, hide, oh my gosh, I need to fix, I need to, right? You're highly reactive to stress and chaos. You're highly reactive to your own thoughts. Fear-driven. Everything you're doing is in response to fear. So even if you know that you want food peace, if you're in your hypervigilant mode and you haven't worked on the things, if you haven't found your own safety on the things that are causing fear, it's going to be really hard to choose food freedom, to choose body image healing, if you're still in fight or flight, if you're still running these things that are threatening your safety, even if they're not actually threatening your safety, right? Because there's a really big difference between the things that are actually threatening to your safety and the things that aren't. There's only a couple things that legitimately are, and we're going to talk about those on Wednesday. Most of them are beliefs. We can change our beliefs so we can get out of hypervigilance mode and find our own safety. Now, what happens when we're in safety? Our window of tolerance is much higher, right? I would describe right now in my life, I'm in a safe place. I've created my own safety. So my window of tolerance, my ability to deal with chaos or disruptions is much larger, okay? It's just easier. And I'm more stable, I'm less reactive, and I'm values driven. When I feel fear come up, I no longer make decisions out of fear. I just allow the fear to pass through me and I create my own safety again. So that I make decisions that are from a place of values. I realized I didn't have the, okay. So this is not the easiest thing, obviously, right? Like creating your own safety is very hard. We're going to talk about a lot of this. So that's what we're going to do over the next week is, you know, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, we're going to talk a lot more. How do you create your own safety? How do you create or question the things that you've perceived to be threatening before that are keeping you stuck in a pattern, a diet binge cycle, stuck in using your coping mechanisms so that you can find safety within yourself and make decisions and start healing and move towards a values-driven life. So the three things that you want to ask yourself are, is it familiar? When you're having a coping mechanism, a behavior change, is it familiar? When, why did it start, and what do you need to feel safe? Okay. So let's talk about, so I put basically in this document that I sent you all, I put a potential threats checklist. So these are like as many of the different threats that I see with your relationship with food, the relationship with your body, the relationship with just your thoughts and anxieties and chaos that contribute to keeping you stuck in the cycle of like needing to diet or needing that validation or needing to, sorry, my cat is eating a paper bag, needing to, you know, stay in the cycle versus allowing yourself to let go of control. And those are there for you. I'm happy to answer more questions. If I go live in the group tomorrow just to answer questions, I'm happy to answer more questions about them. But what I want to do instead is I want to go through the different like symptoms and behaviors that you all are experiencing right now and talk about what they are, why they might be there, so that hopefully that can give you some clarity. All right. So, what are you experiencing? Overeating, binge eating, emotional eating? What is it? Okay. So, binge eating. Yeah. Hi. Binge eating is a physiological response to deprivation. I have explained this before. I sent it kind of in the oh my God phase thing. I'm happy to link to more resources about it. But it's the restrict binge cycle, right? When we restrict, we pull back the pendulum to cause a binge. Okay. So binge eating is literally like just physical. Refeeding. Now, what about emotional binge eating or like binge eating to cope or emotional eating, right? So I'm going to call that EE. How do you think emotional eating develops? Thinking about some of the stuff we've talked about, maybe looking at the notes that I wrote, how do you think emotional eating develops? Why do you think, what purpose is it serving? Self-soothing? Self-soothing, yeah. As a way to numb? Yeah. Numb, soothe. Oh no. Distraction, yeah. When people let you down, food doesn't, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and that's actually so poignant, right? Because what happens when we're kids and we grow up with parents who don't really make time for our emotions or don't teach us how to feel our feelings, don't because they themselves don't know how to feel their feelings. We turn to food because food's reliable, people are not. That's the message that we get when we're younger. But then what happens, right? We don't let ourselves feel our feelings. Oh, one of the things that might cause emotional eating as well, or might cause can keep you stuck in the cycle, is the fear of breakdown. If you've ever had, I see this all the time, if you've ever had a period of time in your life where you had an emotional breakdown, something where maybe you had to end up in a hospital or get like immediate, therapy or psychiatric care or whatever it was, and it ended up being a really sort of shameful or overwhelming time for you, then a lot of people that I work with have a really hard time um, stopping emotional eating and addressing their feelings, because it's not about the stopping emotional eating, right? It's about addressing your feelings, because you're like, oh no, if I let myself feel my feelings right now, it's all gonna come out, and I'm gonna fall apart. When in reality, we move towards the very things that we're um, afraid of and not dealing with. Because if you're suppressing your emotions all the time, guess what's bound to happen? Breakdown. The emotional eating spectrum or the emotional eating pendulum is exactly the same as the food pendulum. When you restrict your emotions, eventually it's all got to come flooding out. When you let it flood out instead of responding with more restriction, then eventually your emotions become more stable and they become smaller little waves instead of like huge waves. Okay. Yeah, emotional eating isn't bad or good. Absolutely. Emotional eating is a coping mechanism. Again, all of these things that we're talking about, binge eating is not bad. Emotional eating, not bad. Hyperfixating on your body, not bad. All of these things are not bad. They're coping mechanisms. They're symptoms. They may not be helpful. They may not be serving you, but they're symptoms. Okay. Now let's talk about body image thoughts. Oh, actually, let's talk about mental restriction first. Stay with the food for a second. So, oh no, my spelling on the spot is not great. Okay. So, food guilt. I hear this all the time. People are like, I've been working on intuitive eating. I've been giving myself unconditional permission. I eat all the foods. Why isn't it stopping? Like, why still binging? Why am I still, thank you. Why am I still, feeling so out of control around food? When is it going to stop? Do you hear the way that I say that? Judgment. all the judgment. Guess what happens when we have food guilt? All right. In the past, guilt leads to dieting. Okay. So even though you are not dieting anymore, the guilt is telling your brain, hey, I feel like restriction's going to come soon. So eat all the food. Okay. I feel guilt for not caring about what I eat. I feel guilty for eating intuitively and not thinking much about food when I should care about. Who is shoulding? Everyone in this webinar is a virtual room full of shoulders. Okay. Should. It's like the problem with should is why do you want to, why should you care about certain things? Why should you eat in a certain way, or why should you work out? Probably because of performance. We were taught at an early age to perform health, right? Our parents probably tried to perform health. Everyone in society performs health. People all over Instagram are performing health, right? Oh, I meditate every day and I, eat this certain way and I never eat cookies and like all of these things. They're performing health, forming wellness. Yeah. And we were taught that, okay, you have to perform health and wellness, right? In order to be accepted, to have your parents leave you alone about your weight, right? If you stop performing health, which what that really means is performing dieting, then you're going to be rejected by your parents, or you're going to be, they're going to bother you about things, or, society's going to judge you. So when you say, oh, I feel bad I should be eating in a certain way, or I should, whatever, why are you trying to perform health? Probably because self-worth, rejection, etc. Okay. So the whole point of food freedom and letting go of control and letting go of the shoulds and the guilt is because when the shoulds are gone, you get to figure out what you actually want. But it takes a while and it's deeply uncomfortable, because if you've been living your whole life based on should and guilt, it's really weird to be in this limbo of I know what I should be doing, but I don't want to do that stuff anymore. But I also do know I want to care about my health. When is that going to happen? Patience. Sitting in the discomfort. Yeah, performing for doctors. Exactly. We're going to talk more about stigma on Wednesday, because stigma is a really big thing, right? Okay, let's talk about body image. So body image thoughts. You ever notice how there's days where your body image is fine, and then other days you're like, oh my gosh, even an hour later, you start freaking out? Well, yeah, literally an hour later, you're like, what is this? What is happening? Why I looked so good in this exact mirror an hour ago. Minutes. Yeah, totally. Okay, everyone's like, yes. Why does that happen? So there's a couple reasons. When we're young, we are taught that, or maybe you're in a chaotic environment, your fear of rejection, and you learn to fix your body. It's as simple as growing up around parents who talk about their bodies all the time, or obsess about their body image, or talk about other people's bodies. We learn early on, oh, not only is society not accepting of certain bodies, but we learn that our parents are not accepting of certain bodies, or that our parents obsess about body image. And then somewhere along the way, if you grow up in a chaotic household, or you grew up always wondering where you stood with your parents, if you were being accepted or if you were being supported, then yeah, we're going to talk about, sorry, someone just asked about health. We're going to talk about that on Wednesday. It should from doctors. But if you grew up wondering if your parents accepted you or loved you, because it kind of changed, their appreciation or approval or validation of you changed depending on what you were doing, then we learn to like get control by focusing on our body image and like, channeling it into our body and making ourselves the problem, right? We're the problem that needs fixing. And so then stress, something bad happens, the pandemic, we're stuck inside, and all of a sudden it's like all we can think about is our body image, right? As a parent, I'm trying so hard to avoid this with my daughter. Yeah. So the best thing that you can do as a mother or father, a parent, just in general, is heal your own body image. Because if you don't heal yourself, you are going to subconsciously project it onto other people, subconsciously project it onto your children, because we move towards, I want to like emphasize this, unhealed fears are our destiny, okay? When we are not facing our fears and bringing them from the subconscious to conscious, then we end up moving towards them unconsciously. So we have to look at this stuff, right? We have to look at like, why are you focusing so much on your body image? Why are you eating in the way that you are? Why do you feel this panic to diet? Okay. And there's a lot more information in the notes because we are definitely getting to the end. I don't want to take people over unless you all want to stay. I want to do this one. No, we talked about a lot of that. Okay. So here's like the categories, right? Here's the unhealed fear destiny. Exactly. Here you could stay all evening. Oh. Here's the big categories. Okay. Physical danger. Do what you can to feel safe. Okay, so if it's a food access issue, this is why if you grew up poor in a low-income house or you grew up with limited access to food, you're going to be extra sensitive to having food restrictions or going to the grocery store or having all the restrictions around like having to wait in line for the grocery stores and things like that, and just like the whole experience of it now where you have to like put on your mask and your gloves and stuff, like that can be really triggering for someone who grew up with financial restriction and like economic strains around food, because it does feel like actual scarcity, right? Physical, also just coming off of dieting and coming off of restricting your food, trying to cut out certain foods or whatever. What you need to focus on right now, doing what you can to feel safe physically, eating enough, eating consistently, making sure you have your cravings and the things available in your house so you can give yourself unconditional permission to the extent that you can, right? We're all doing the best with our, like, obviously you're not going to the store every day right now, but doing the best you can with the resources that you have in order to make yourself feel like you're safe and that food is abundant, even if it's not technically like it's just creating that sense of safety. So mental and emotional threats, right? Emotional eating or mental restriction. I shouldn't eat this or I should eat that. Question them. Question the thoughts. Question the beliefs that you have about these things. Who says, kind of like I said, with the should thing, who says that you should be doing that or should not? If it's doctors, again, we're going to talk about that next week. But at the end of the day, if you should do something because of a doctor told you to do that for your health, but should is not helping, like nothing's changing, you're not actually changing the way that you eat or the way that you exercise or whatever to do what the doctor told you that you should do, then you absolutely should be healing your relationship. You absolutely need to heal your relationship with food first and foremost, so that you can do the things that the doctors want you to do, right? Aside from weight loss, again, we're going to talk about all of that on Wednesday. Part of the mental and emotional piece is learning to sit with discomfort. So what do we do when we're growing up, right? And we don't know how to feel our feelings, or we interpret any change to our environment as chaotic or out of our control, or we do all these things in order to predict how someone's going to see us or how someone's going to treat us, or whatever it is we don't have a very large ability to sit in discomfort. So if you have a bad body image day, all you want to do is fix it. So part of creating safety for yourself is allowing yourself to have bad body image days, and that's it. Like, some days are bad, and that's it. You don't do anything about it. You don't change anything. You don't make it mean anything. You don't judge yourself for it. That's it. Negative emotion tolerance is so hard. It's so hard, but it's the most valuable part of this process, right? That's what food freedom is. Food freedom is learning how to tolerate all of the negative emotions, all of the stressors, all of the different things and the messages and this whatever, so that you're not constantly in a state of fight or flight. You can actually make values-driven decisions for food, for your health. How do we cope with the discomfort? Really just sit with it. Yeah. You don't act on it. This is the number one promise that I have people make. Don't make decisions from a place of fear. If you're freaking out about your body image, don't download that app. Don't start tracking your food. Don't go weigh yourself, right? Like, you just sit. One of the things I always say is like, well, I'm not going to do anything about it today. My OCD makes it hard to say that's it. I agree. And I've worked with a lot of clients with OCD, and it's doable. It's not out of the question. I think a lot of times when we get diagnoses like that, I feel like, oh, well, I'm never going to be able to change this part. You can change how you relate to it. It takes a little bit more maneuvering, but it's totally possible. Ended up working with a lot of clients with OCD because it kind of goes hand in hand with this whole thing, right? Body image and food stuff comes up a lot with OCD and with ADHD as well. Yeah, journaling with your emotions. Yeah, I love that. Literally just sit with it. Yes. I had a great body image day, so I decided to weigh myself, and instantly I felt like shit. Yeah. So noticing that, writing that down, and being like, oh, okay, this is what happens when I weigh myself. It doesn't end well. Sitting with my feelings was the hardest part of ED treatment. I didn't keep up with it afterwards. So that to me says that there is probably some beliefs about what it means to sit with your feelings. And if there's resistance around sitting with your feelings, like exploring that deeper. Oh my God, this is how I get in trouble with texting and exits, when I won't sit with my emotions. Yes. What do we do, right? We go all the different directions. We try to fix, we try to act, we try to do all the things because we can't just sit in a bad day. And we try to make it mean something. We make it mean everything. Oh my gosh, I'm backsliding, right? Oh, recovery judgment, food freedom judgment is like the sneakiest layer of not sitting with your emotions, because I'm backsliding. I took 10 steps backwards. No, you didn't. It's just a bad day. You're just learning how to deal with it, right? Every single time you have a anxiety or fear come up, it's just an opportunity to learn and deepen your connection. Someone asked, how does it translate to someone of really high weight? Is there a time when weight loss is required? All of these things, there's never a time, in my opinion, to prescribe like intentional restriction and starvation because someone is like too big. Food freedom, here's the thing that I always say, right? Because I'm never going to be the person who's like, this is how you lose weight. And food freedom has to happen separate from weight loss. Okay. You cannot try to be losing weight while you're pursuing food freedom, and the entire thing is untangling it. But whatever you want to do with your body afterwards, starting with food freedom, it has to come first. It has to come first. And what we're going to find out on Wednesday is that the things that you probably want from weight loss, you are going to more easily get, without pursuing weight loss. So, but no, there's no weight limit on freedom. There's no weight limit on, learning to sit with your emotions. There's no weight limit on learning that, like, creating your own safety within yourself, right? And the parts of you that get super anxious and afraid. Yeah, well, diets literally don't work. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that on Wednesday, and 95 to 98%. So, yeah. Yikes. All right. Yeah, food and I know that's a hard pill to swallow, that food freedom is more important than losing weight, but food freedom can give you everything that you wanted from weight loss, almost everything, right? And it will radically change your life. Like every area of your life. Talk about living for yourself instead of living for the approval of others. Living for yourself instead of living in fear. So I want you to sit with this. Um, I'm happy to answer some questions if you post them earlier. These chats are so long, so I know I'm not gonna like scroll back while you're all live. Happy to answer questions right now. On Wednesday, we're gonna talk about weight. We're gonna talk about health, why diets don't actually work, like get into the nitty gritty of that. And then Friday, I'm gonna take you like step by step. This is how you start healing your relationship with food. I know it feels scary. What I want you to do throughout all of this is I want you to go back to question number 2 in the journaling prompts that I asked you about, like, if weight loss aside, what do you really want? What does an ideal day, ideal life look like? You can have that from food freedom. That's my whole thing, is I help people get that. And guess what? They achieve it all and it's easy because you're not in fear 24/7 anymore. And you're not in resistance and rebellion anymore. You're in self-care. How can we counter the comments about quarantine weight gain in professional spaces? Remember that when people in professional spaces and in people in general make comments like that about weight, that's because they're struggling internally. And that doesn't mean that you have to take on that story as your own. That says more about them than it ever does about you. So you don't have to take that on. I need to stop trying to heal my parents' relationship with food. Yeah. So, no, their issues directly caused yours. You are responsible for healing right now, your own issues. Okay. And you may be repeatedly triggered by your parents' issues because they caused it. Okay. But fixing them is never, ever, ever going to help in the way that you think it is. Ever. It's never going to be satisfying enough. Yes. Should you get rid of all the apps? Absolutely. What can I do right now to feel less anxious about food? Let yourself be anxious. Don't do anything about it. Write it down, acknowledge it, like take notes. What is causing the anxiety? Why? Go through this entire notes, like all the notes that I gave you, copy them in a new document, go through all of them, and start to make your own connections between your anxiety and food. And then we can keep talking about it this week. What are your thoughts on diets from dietitians who are health at every size and anti-diet providers? I think this takes the pressure off of having to figure out or the shoulds. Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, I think some people like that, other people don't. I personally don't do it because like I just am never going to be the person who tells you what to eat. So if you want that, like there are options, there are dietitians and stuff who give meal plans for like early recovery. That being said, my big thing that I do, and we're going to talk about this on Friday, but my big thing I do is like eat meals a day. Outside of that, eat whatever the heck you want. 3 meals a day to stabilize your blood sugar and to get into a routine, because your hunger and fullness cues are likely messed up from dieting, right? So just eat consistently to get into a routine. If you're snacking 24 hours in between meals, that's fine. But start experimenting, start playing, start asking yourself, like, what do you really want to eat? You get to decide. I know that's scary. Like there's a lot of responsibility deciding what you eat, but like, yeah, what do we do with the thoughts? Let it pass. Try to understand it. I gave you the checklist, right? Is it familiar? When and why did it start? What do you need to feel safe? Go through that checklist. Okay. When you have these thoughts, sometimes I'll write at the top of a page, I'll be like, today I'm anxious about blank. And then bullet point, like, you know what I mean? I have some Q&As over here. Winnie, one thing I'm wondering about all this, when trying to slow down to eat, I've often heard that it takes 15 to 20 minutes. Ugh, I hate that. Yeah. How do we use this understanding if not a diet rule? I don't know. It doesn't matter. These kind of things, the like 15 to 20 minutes and like eat slowly tend to be highly restrictive and taught for the purpose of weight loss. And so I'm just kind of like, allow yourself to overeat right now. Hey, guess what? When you're healing your relationship with food, you're gonna overeat. That's just what it is. You'll figure it out, you know? Trust. Gotta come back to trust. We're gonna keep talking about this. Is procrastination a flight response? Yeah, or an avoidance response? I find that procrastination is deeply wise because procrastination is usually showing us like either there's a block or a belief that's coming up that you need to deal with, or procrastination is showing us like you don't actually want to be doing the thing you're doing. If I don't sit with my emotions, I sleep, but I also suffer with depression. Is that okay? I mean, learning to sit with your emotions will help your depression. It doesn't mean that it's going to make your depression go away, right? Like this depression is a chemical imbalance. Like I'm not in the same way that learning to sit with your feelings um, doesn't make like OCD or whatever go away, but it will help significantly in your ability to tolerate, which is huge. Okay. Do you have more resources for positive self-talk journaling? Um, yes, I can put that together for you. I've gained back X amount of weight in 8 months that I've been healing my relationship with food, but I'd like to eat a little healthier since I feel sluggish and tired. Is there a way for me to do that without undoing any progress? Experimentation. You just got to start experimenting with it. If it feels restrictive, you'll know instantly because it'll make you want to binge, you know? um, or is this thought something I've been conditioned to want? To eat healthier? Um, maybe, maybe not. Again, experimenting, right? Yeah, we could do a practice exercise with a scenario of sitting, feeling with. Okay, so someone give me let's do a practice right now. Someone give me like a feeling that comes up for you that you want to learn how to sit with. Okay, so feeling fat, that's not actually a feeling. Try to get more specific. Loneliness. Okay, wait. Loneliness is a really interesting one. Unworthiness, disgust. Okay, shame. All right. So let's do shame. Let's do guilt. Let's do food guilt. Okay. It's kind of all the same. All right. So let's do food guilt. So you're sitting there and you're like, I just ate this thing, or I haven't worked out in a while. Right. And the guilt is coming up and you're like, okay. Now, first thing you want to do is just tune into your body. Where are you feeling it? Guilt or shame? It probably exists right in the chest. Your jaw probably clenches, right? You get really panicky and like, you know, you get hot a little bit. You get kind of like antsy, chest and throat. Yeah. So first thing is just where is it happening in the body? We tend to be so disconnected from the body that we feel anxiety and guilt come up, but we turn it into thoughts, which is just like not useful at all. Okay. Because the thoughts just run a million miles an hour. Right. So panic, guilt. Oh my gosh, I haven't exercised in so long. Okay. Then what do you do? Well, your thoughts try to take it and run with it, right? Your thoughts are probably saying, oh my gosh, you need to get on a workout routine, you need to download an app, you need to buy a workout plan, you need to do all these things in order to get back on it. Or like, why aren't you doing it? Why haven't you done it? You're so lazy. You're so like all of these things. It starts just like throwing stuff at you. How overwhelming is that? Now you feel guilty that you haven't worked out and you feel guilty about the fact that you're like a failure, right? Or that you're like lazy or that you're never going to figure it out or whatever. It's like now you've piled on 25 more things. So what I would do in that moment is How am I feeling? Guilty, ashamed, right? Whatever. Okay. Now you've got it at least out of your head. What is it telling me? I don't know. What's it telling you? That exercise is something that, well, first, I think it's telling you that you value exercise on some level, right? But then I think it's also telling you that exercise, specifically performing exercise, equals, self-worth, equals good enough. And then close it out with a mantra. I am okay. I will figure this out. Eventually. On Saturday in the bonus class, we're going to talk about mindset and go way deeper into this. I will figure it out eventually. Long-term thinking. Obviously, on some level, you value exercise, but it's too wrapped up in performance. Okay. So when you detach it from performance and from being good enough and worthy enough, guess what? You can start living a life with your values and you'll figure it out eventually. Trust. This is where the trust piece comes in. Food freedom is about developing trust, because how much longer are you willing to live your life not being able to trust yourself? Like, you're stuck with yourself. You better learn how to trust yourself, because like, what the heck else are we doing? If you can't trust yourself, that will impact every single area of your life. Food freedom is not about like giving up dieting. Food freedom is about learning to trust yourself, fiercely trusting yourself, because you're what you got, like you gotta, like, you're in this body, you're in this brain, like this is it. So you can either be against yourself or be on the same team as yourself. That's it. Food freedom teaches you how to be on the team as yourself. Okay. Okay. So we're going to talk more about this. I'm going to post a discussion thread in a bit here, where if I didn't answer your question, you have more questions. I highly recommend going through the notes that I included and write down the questions that you have for me, so that I'll answer them. I'll probably go live, or maybe, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I'll probably go live like tomorrow. I'll figure it out eventually. Yeah, I trust myself to figure this out. It's so beautiful. This is like such a beautiful thought. I can take a picture of this too and put it in the group. This is such a beautiful thought, because it's like, okay, I don't need to figure it out right this second. My okayness is not dependent on me figuring this out. I will figure it out. No. Oh, someone asked, what can you do to support me during this time? Nothing. What you can do to support me during this time is show up to all the calls, or watch all the calls, keep up with them if you can't show up live, and learn some stuff, do some healing, like give it all you got, like use this time to question your beliefs. You're safe in here to start questioning everything that's going on. You're safe in this group. Okay. This week, I got you. I'm holding you. I'm keeping you safe. So use it. I know it's uncomfortable. Ugh, scary. You're not alone in this. Yeah, there's a freaking 450 people who signed up for these, like a lot of people. And that's a week of signups, right? If I'd opened up signups for like a month, I don't even know how big this group would be, A lot of us are going through it. A lot of us are shooters. Our self-worth is tied up in all of this. Yeah, this is I'm literally never giving away this much information for free. This is going to be such a wild week. I'm so happy you all are here. I would question what kind of exercise because your joints need it. Um, there are joint specific exercises. Like if you want to work out for your body and for your joints, Pilates is like one of the best things that you can do for your joints. And you can look up Pilates videos on YouTube. Don't not blog Pilates, but yeah. So look up like, weight neutral. Is anyone extremely uncomfortable right now? I'm freaking out. Yeah, yes, you're extremely uncomfortable. Yes, lean into it. Discomfort means you're on the verge of a breakthrough. Discomfort means you're on the verge of a breakthrough. Discomfort means you're on the verge of a breakthrough. You have to sit in the discomfort because when we run away from the discomfort, we lose the break. We're going to just keep bumping into it over and over again. Okay. All right. We're going to end there and get excited. Discomfort is fun. It's exciting. It means that whatever's coming after discomfort is going to be so beautiful. And you're going to look back and this is why it all makes sense. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Aqua fitness, aqua sports. Okay. All right, y'all. Let's do this. Yeah, Brene Brown is incredible. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you on Wednesday. If I was about to say if you're watching the replay, watch it, but like you would have to get to this point. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for participating and asking all the questions. And I will post a question feed for you to ask more questions and I'll answer them in between. Okay, goodbye. Oh, you're all so sweet. Bye.